Hi guys, Runeterra here. I hope that you're having an awesome 2021 as always. If you're not yet updated, Legends of Runeterra patch 2.9 was just released last night. Only a very few changes were implemented in this patch. We had two buffs, which were buffs to Taliyah, which increased her stats by +1/+1, and the buff to Malphite's level up requirement, reducing the amount of mana that you need to spend on landmarks from 12 to 10. Accompanied by these two buffs are two nerfs which are targeted to the Azir Irelia archetype. Blossoming Blade's mana cost increased from 4 to 5, and Inspiring Marshal's mana cost increased from 5 to 6 with some minor stat changes to both cards. Upon reading this, I was really disappointed and underwhelmed with the patch notes. I was expecting a lot more. I think a lot of YouTubers, a lot of people on Twitter and on Reddit have already expressed their frustration regarding this patch, so I will not go into that detail. I was actually expressing my frustrations last night on Twitter, so if you were following me on Twitter, you would see my posts last night. I even tagged Dave Tron, who is the interim game director right now, in one of my tweets. And actually, to my surprise, he actually replied to my tweet. He was asking me to elaborate on why I was disappointed with the patch. His tweet went viral. A lot of Legends of Runeterra players on Twitter replied to his tweet. So if you're interested in that, if you want him to hear your thoughts, check out my Twitter account, Runeterra, and you can see the tweets there. I personally think that this is a good sign because it's a sign, right, that they're reading our tweets, they're reading our feedback on Twitter, they're listening to the community. So hopefully in future balance patch changes, things will get better. Regarding the balance changes that they actually implemented, my thoughts on it are that I think they will be significant. The buffs to Taliyah and Malphite are super good. I think it will make Malphite and Taliyah decks a bit better. Azir Irelia will still be a tier 1 deck, but I think it will not be a tier 0 deck anymore. It will range from mid tier 1 to higher tier 1 now. The top 3 decks of the meta would still be the same: Azir Irelia, Trundle Lissandra Control or TLC, and Nasus Thresh. With that being said, let's now go to the main topic of my video, which are 6 decks that significantly got better with patch 2.9. The first deck in the list is Lissandra Taliyah Thralls, mainly because of the nerf to Azir Irelia. Azir Irelia has been a bad matchup for this deck, but right now because of the nerfs it should get a bit better. This deck is also very strong against TLC and I believe it goes even with Nasus Thresh. Also, the buff to Taliyah will be a small improvement to the deck. Do not underestimate the power level of this deck. I personally believe that this will be a mid to high tier 2 deck during this patch. The second deck in my list is Teemo Ezreal, another deck that has a weak matchup against Azir Irelia. So now that Azir Irelia is nerfed, this deck should be significantly better, especially because it has a good matchup both against Trundle Lissandra Control and Nasus Thresh. I recently put out a climbing guide for this deck, so if you don't know how to play the deck yet, make sure to check it out. The third deck in my list is Tahm Kench Soraka Control. This is very similar to Teemo Ezreal. It has a even to unfavored matchup against Azir Irelia, although right now it should be more close to even. However, it absolutely destroys Nasus Thresh, and it has a favored matchup against Trundle Lissandra Control. I already also have a climbing guide for this deck, so check that out. Fourth deck in my list is Ezreal Draven, which has been a very strong deck for quite some time now. But now with the nerf to Azir Irelia, it should beat the deck even harder. Although it has a bad matchup both against Nasus Thresh and Lissandra Control, those matchups are very winnable. And Ezreal Draven has very good matchups against many tier 2 decks right now. If my prediction is correct that Lissandra Taliyah Thralls will be high tier 2, Ezreal Draven beats that deck very easily, mainly because of Scorched Earth. If you're a new player, I would highly recommend you to craft Ezreal Draven because if you already have the cards for this deck, you can easily transition to other strong Noxus, Piltover, and Zone decks. The fourth deck in my list is Ashe Noxus, which is another deck that loses to Azir Irelia, so it will benefit now that Azir Irelia is a bit nerfed. I believe it goes even with DLC and it is favored against Nasus Thresh. This is also a deck that should be favored against Taliyah Thralls, it should be favored against Tahm Soraka, it's favored against many mid-range decks. This is also another deck that should be safe to craft if you're a new player. Go ahead and craft this. This will be a good deck for a long time. The sixth deck in my list is Shyvana Asol or Mid-Range Dragons. This deck has a slightly favorable matchup with Azir Irelia, but now with the mid-range options of Azir Irelia being nerfed, Dragon's matchup should be a bit better. I think it should be 60% in favor of Shyvana Asol now. And Shyvana Asol is also slightly favored against Nasus Thresh and slightly unfavored against TLC. So it has a good matchups with 2 out of the 3 of the top 3 decks. So this will be a good deck to use on ladder. And just an honorable mention, although I don't have the deck list yet, I believe that a Taliyah Malphite deck will be a low tier 2 to a mid tier 2 deck. The buffs to the two cards are actually super significant in my opinion for their archetypes, not necessarily for the overall meta. So with those two buffs, there might be a tier 2 deck that will rise now. I for sure will experiment with the archetype and I will release a video once I'm successful. That's it for the video. I will be back with the gameplay videos as soon as the patch hits. If you like the video, don't forget to leave a like, leave a comment for the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe to my channel. Comments really help my channel to be recommended to other viewers, so if you want to support me, simply watch, like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you're having a nice day. Enjoy your 2021. Bye-bye.